team captain.
There you go. So the team captain, while I have you on the phone, of course, I'd like to ask for an update on some of those guys. Cain Velasquez, he had the surgery, I believe it was in January, correct? Or maybe late December.
Yes.
Right around that time frame, he had the surgery, the back surgery. What's up with Cain? How much is he back into the gym? When can we expect to see him again? Will he be helping you with your preparations for John?
Yes, he will be helping me as much as he can. I think what we have done as a team is when Cain has these back injuries, he rushes himself back into the training camp. And it's not the fights. Cain Velasquez can fight every weekend. It's when he goes into training, the wear and tear that puts on his body, it sets him back. So then he has to go back. So he'll help me as much as he can. I think last time with Rumble, he played more of the role of a coach. This time I physically need him to do a little bit more. I believe Cain should be back by the end of this year. I don't know if it will be before, but I think he'll fight again in 2017. I would love to see him fight Stipe Miocic, Brett. I think everyone in their right mind knows that is the best heavyweight fight that the UFC would ever have had. The two best heavyweights that we may have ever seen inside of the octagon against each other. It'll be phenomenal.
Yeah. Hopefully we get to see that at some point. Khabib, you spoke to Khabib since the whole UFC 209 situation went down?
Yes, we have talked to Khabib. He's doing good. The idea is that Khabib will be back in mid-July, right around the and I don't really know exactly when Ramadan ends, but it'll be right after it ends or right towards the end. I'm not exactly sure. He'll start training camp with the target of trying to fight sometime around September is what Khabib wants to do.
Okay, and then how about Luke Rockhold? Dana White came out on Twitter yesterday and told him to stick to modeling and fighting and not to worry about matchmaking. Why is Luke beefing with Dana right now?
I think you are starting to see that in a lot of situations, the quiet mouse does not get to the cheese. And I think a lot of people are now willing to just snap back, man. They're just like, frustrated, and I do believe that Luke was a little bit misunderstood. He said something about an interim title fight at one point, but then he actually retracted that and said something to the effect of, even if it was Romero versus Whitaker, all these middleweights, they just kind of want some sort of advancement in their division, and they feel with the postponements of St. Pierre and Bisping, that they were kind of all stagnated. So, and I think he voiced his frustration. I think in Dana's defense, when he was doing the interview the other day, that's probably the first thought that jumped in his mind was, oh, yeah, Luke Rockhold said that. And these guys are fighters, man. Luke's a fighter. He's not going to stay back and just take anything from anyone, So, yeah, he's been offered fights. Luke has been offered fights. I just don't know. I don't know if at the time the fights made sense, being that where would it put him? There's really if this whole St. Pierre Bisping thing was to go on in the end of the year, you're like number 3 in the queue. Say, hypothetically, Luke goes out and beats Gegard Mousasi. He's still behind Robert Whitaker and Yoel Romero, so it really did nothing. You know what I'm saying? So those guys want some clarity as to what's happening in the division. So now, with Romero fighting for the belt, I guess, they could match Luke up with someone else, and then those guys have a chance to actually put themselves right back into position to be the next guy. So you still have to wait, but not nearly as long.
Yeah, Ben and I played a game earlier that said, "Is this happening?" And one of the topics was Bisping versus St. Pierre, and I said I still kind of think it's happening. But you seem to think you take Dana's word that you think Bisping and Yoel Romero will be the next fight.
Hey, man, I gotta run. I'm sorry, man. See you guys.
Yeah, thanks,
All
Ben.
right, Ben. Later, brother. You know what the problem is, Brett, is like I do take people at face value when they. That's why when we even go back to the situation with Jones, initially I took it all at face value, and then I go back and I look at all this stuff and I talk to people, and it's like, then you start to kind of look at it. So for Dana, he says it, sure, but I don't know. Bisping GSP really is the biggest fight that the organization can make in that division. So how are they wrong for wanting to make that fight, Brett? You understand what I'm saying? So I get the thought on both sides.
Yeah.
I truly feel and I said this on UFC Tonight, I feel if they are going to do the Bisping GSP fight, right? And it's in November. Let Romero and Whitaker fight for an interim title. I know we've been throwing interim titles around, but shoot, Khabib and Tony were going to fight for an interim title 4 months after Conor won his.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been a year for Bisping, and then at least the guy that wins that fight knows exactly where he stands in the division. And I think those guys would be happy with that. You just got to make sure you're taking care of everybody, you know.
It's not a perfect answer because, like you, I'm getting kind of annoyed with just how quickly we create interim titles for no reason. But I think that's part of the hesitancy on the UFC's part is just that this is not something that we've done. If we have a healthy champion, we don't create an interim belt. But times are changing, and you've already shown that you are willing to do that. So if this big fight between Bisping and St. Pierre has to happen, then yeah, you kind of have to create an interim title in the meantime. You're just kind of forced to.
Just because, right, Brett? Just because then if Romero, say Bisping wins, because honestly, I love GSP. I just think that Bisping's a stud, man. People always discredit him, but he's a freaking. Say Bisping wins and Romero beats Robert Whitaker, right? Now Romero is just sitting there waiting, and they have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
They have to fight because the only time, and as you said, a healthy champion, the only time an interim title's been defended, Barral, but Dom was on the show for 2 years.
Yeah.
So it was like they wouldn't have Bisping as the champion. You're all out there defending the interim champion while Mike is just sitting on the ground, sitting on the sideline, you know. So, yeah,
yep.
It happened. The Khabib Ferguson thing, I don't know, Brett. I don't know if that was right, but in this situation, I think it's right.
Well, it's the UFC we're living in now. You know, it's they're making big fights, and as a result of that, you know, some of the guys who want to be in those big fights are getting chirpy. And as you mentioned, it pays to come out and speak about these things loudly. So interim titles are not going away. It's just going to be the world that we live in. Hey, man, thanks for waking up for the interview. Sorry we hijacked you a little bit and threw Askren on there, but I thought that was great. You two going back and forth about the wrestling stuff. And
it's all good.
Stay healthy in camp, man, and we will talk to you again before that big, huge fight against John Jones in the end of July. Really looking forward to that, man.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, man. I'll talk to you. Bye-bye.
All right, have a good day. See you, DC. All right, there he is. Daniel Cormier defends his title against John Jones at UFC 214 in Anaheim, California. Can't wait for that card. You know, looking up at that summer kickoff press conference, a lot of good fights, a lot of good main events. That one stands so much head and shoulders above the rest right now. We got to see what the UFC does with 213, which tickets went on sale for UFC 213 on July 8th in Las Vegas today, Wednesday, when we're taping this. And still no clear main event, which is, you know, kind of crazy. But I'm sure that they're working, well, I know that they're working very hard on figuring out what's going to headline that card. All right, that's it for the show. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it as much as I did, having Askren on and DC at the same time. Let me know what you guys think about having a fighter as a co-host, or if you prefer journalists, if you prefer a little mix here and there. We'll keep bouncing around a little bit. Subscribe to this podcast on the ESPN app, on iTunes. Leave us a review. That's really important for us just in terms of getting more eyeballs on the show and also just getting your feedback. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about the 5 rounds and the direction it's headed. So thanks again for listening, and we will see you again next week.